Hello and welcome. This is Lita Downs from the Center for Faculty Excellence, and I would like to welcome you to one of our Winter 2021 National Faculty Meeting breakout sessions. On the line today, we have Dr. Heather Craig Alonge. She will be presenting on Lewin's model of change and the development of faculty scholars. Welcome, Dr. Alonge. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to present to everyone the Lewin's model of change. Today, some of our objectives for this presentation will be to understand the model of change itself and the various pillars of the model. We will then look at how to utilize the model of change to implement changes within your faculty onboarding and your faculty development for your faculty body. And then we'll look at some samples of success using the model of change. Just to give a little background about my familiarity and use of the model, I am core faculty within the DHA program for the School of Health Professions. And we utilize this model when we bring on our new faculty into the capstone and dissertation process for both the PhD in Health Services and the doctorate in Healthcare Administration. We have seen that many of our faculty come to us either from prior institutions where they have worked with research students in the dissertation process. So they come to us with some prior knowledge and understanding. We might have faculty that we hire that are new to the process of dissertation mentoring. And then we might have existing Walden faculty who come to us from either other programs or have only taught and are new to the research faculty role. So with that being said, if we can move on to the next slide. So the Lewin's model of change. Dr. Lewin created this framework or this theory very much in the aspects of looking at change and the people who receive and implement the change as water. So we have the unfreeze, the change, and the refreeze. So if you will, in the unfreeze change, if you'll think about us as a faculty body, we're one big frozen chunk of ice. And in order for us to scatter about and to change, we have to unfreeze. So you're going to unfreeze or thaw out that body of water. Then you're in the change process. So you can think of it as molecules of water streaming along, flowing, and embracing that change process. And then the refreeze, that's we've mastered the change, or we're here to hold on to it. So then we refreeze into that body of frozen ice. So in the unfreeze portion of the Lewin's change model, we begin with determining what needs to change. We're seeing a problem, we're seeing an opportunity, we're seeing students' needs, university needs evolve. And so we determine based upon that what needs to change. Then we create the need for change. So that's when we lay the foundation to begin that change process. We then must earn the support from our leadership. So here at Walden, that would either be our coordinators, our program directors, deans, all the way up to our chief academic officer and our university president. And then we have to understand and manage the doubts and concerns that will come about as a result of the change. And that's not only with our faculty body and our leadership, but also with our students. From there, we move to our actual change pillar. And during our change pillar, that's when we communicate often. We allow our faculty to know that this change is being implemented. We allow them to know the expectations of the change, how to implement the change, how to manage the change. We also empower action. Our faculty are key stakeholders here at the university. We have to empower them to not only act on the change, but then to also maintain the change and to help their students through the change as well. We dispel rumors that may occur as a result of the change, and we involve our faculty in that process. I often say instead of talking at faculty, we talk with faculty when we implement any type of change that involves and impacts their work and the work of their students. From there, we go to the refreeze pillar. So that's when we anchor the change into the culture. Change very much has to be part of your culture, whether it be as a team, as a program, as a school, as a university. We have to be able to sustain that change for a specified duration of time. And we also have to provide ongoing support and opportunities for development as our faculty work around the change, implement the change into their practice, into their classrooms. And then we celebrate that success in the model. Moving forward, so the unfreezing phase. What do we know about that? When we begin the unfreezing, we have to change the way that things have been done or the status quo. In this phase, you might have some resistance from faculty members saying, well, we've always done it this way. Why would we go about changing things? You know, the old saying, if it's not broke, why fix it? We have to prepare ourselves as those who are on the front lines implementing the change and delivering the messages on how to both prepare and respond to the reaction to change. And remember, not all reaction is negative reaction. Oftentimes you can be received with positive reaction to the change, excitement, willingness, positive buy-in. Then you have to find the new equilibrium for success. You know, just like water molecules have to be in equilibrium, so does change. You know, we have to be balanced. You know, you can't have one extreme or the other. We have to find continual balance, and then we have to root into that balance in order for the change to be successful. And we have to receive support from our leadership to initiate the change. You know, they have to provide us support, then in return, we provide our faculty support in order for that change process to begin. Next slide, please. So the change phase. I often say this is the hardest part of the process because this is when you are actually on the ground running. So you have to identify steps or processes that need to change based on evidence or data. Being in academia, many of us thrive on data or evidence. We like numbers. We like things that support our cause, that paint a picture for us. And so when you come to your faculty and you say, this process is going to change, or we have identified these steps toward initiating a change, you should do so with data. For example, if you were to change within your doctoral program, the prospectus, so you move from the traditional narrative style prospectus over to one of the new prospectus forms that has been developed, you have to present to your faculty why that is being done in terms of data. You could show that, you know, many students have challenges in gaining prospectus approval. And so by changing to the new form, it will assist them with some of the barriers that they might be facing. You could show the TIS reports, how many students are at risk in the TIS at the prospectus phase, and how moving to this new form can help alleviate some of those challenges. You have to embrace the new ideas and ways as a collective team. So while we understand that every faculty member is different, we have different personality styles, different motivations for doing our jobs. The change itself is not unique to each faculty member. The change itself will be the same for each faculty member. So we have to collectively accept the change and find ways to work on it and embrace it. We also had to demonstrate how the change benefits the university, the faculty body, and the students. And most often, we can do that again by having that evidence or data that substantiates the need for change. If we are seeing that, for instance, we are having students that are having significant writing challenges, and we have the data to show this, then we can explain to them by creating an expectation that they utilize a specific writing center resource or have a writing assessment at a certain point in their degree program, helps the student improve. We're able to then show the change benefit to all parties involved. And then we have to change the curve. So moving on. The refreezing change phase. So, we've introduced the change. We've started working around the data to show the need for change. We've redefined our culture for the change. We're changing the curve. Now we're going to evoke the change. We're going to measure our successes by, for a lot of us, student outcomes. So you make a change that impacts the work that your faculty is doing. Then we can see the impact or the positivity of the change by the student outcomes. Then we can offer ongoing support to our faculty. We can offer faculty cohort sessions. We can offer education to the team, etc. And one of the things that I would offer is don't modify a process too soon after implementation. Unless something is absolutely egregious, you see something that is definitely flawed after you have implemented the process, by all means, that has to be changed. Otherwise, give the process time to organically flow. Allow the culture to embrace the change and to adapt and get used to the change. And then celebrate your success after you have implemented that change. And celebration varies based upon team, based upon the change, the desire, etc. So, it's up to you, up to your programs to decide what celebration looks like for you. Moving on to the next slide. So, who are change agents here at Walden University? Change agents include the university itself. That includes our board of trustees, our university president, our CEO, our chief academic officer. That includes, our partners on instruction design, library, writing, Center for Faculty Excellence, CRQ, etc. Our change agent is our faculty body. I will say that when it comes to change, oftentimes our faculty embrace more change than any other team, entity, or persons at the university. They are also on the front line of those changes. So they are working with the students through the change process, encouraging the student, listening to the student through that change. And then our students are our change agents as well. Oftentimes, many of the decisions that we make in regards to change is for the betterment of the student and for their academic journeys here. Next slide, please. So changing the curve for faculty scholars. As you can see here, we have a nice graph here that shows the actual transition curve that we go through when we're developing our faculty. And one of the first things that you might notice when you introduce the concept of change to faculty is shock. What, a change? Oh no, not another perspectives form, not another way of doing things, not another, assessment that we have to grade, etc. Sometimes you'll see that your faculty or your peers will go through denial. This concept of, well, maybe if I don't check my email, this will go away. or they ignore an email that was sent in regards to, if they just don't acknowledge it, then they won't be held accountable to that change. There's an awareness of frustration. So I don't have a lot of time to invest in learning this. We know that for our contributing faculty, many of them, if not all of them, have other obligations outside of Walden University. They're full-time employed in industry. They perhaps are faculty at other universities and schools. They have, professional development that they're doing elsewhere, families, social obligations, etc. So having to take the time to learn a new process, to put in the hours needed for the faculty development to improve in their roles as faculty, to help their students improve through that change, can be a very frustrating moment. So then after you work through the awareness of frustration, you get to the acceptance phase of the curve. So, they're thinking, okay, I have to do this. They're going to let go of the past. They're going to gain some comfort level with their attitudes and behaviors around that change, knowing that they have to root into the change in order to develop in their roles as faculty. I'm going on to the next slide. So then after you get to the acceptance phase, that's when we go into the experimental phase. We're rolling out the change, we're implementing it as a best practice in our work that we do with our students and the curriculum that we're developing and the research that we're conducting. And so we ask ourselves, how can I get this done in the best way possible? We're testing our new reality by implementing new approaches, developing new skills. And I can say that the experimental phase of the change model is, to me, the most exciting. This is when you really see how things are working, how things can improve. And, the thing about this model is that it can be applied to any degree level, to any faculty level at Walden University. And so while our examples here today are rooted into doctoral faculty, please know that any of these 7 phases of transition are applicable to where you are in regards to program and degree level. So after you are in the experimentation phase, you'll move on to the searching phase. So your faculty might be searching for why. Okay, so I'm implementing this, I'm experimenting with it, but I want to know, why am I accountable for this? And will this get done because it's the best for our students? And that's where, communication is key with your faculty. Having an open line of communication, not just you delivering a message to them, but also allowing them to come to you and to your leadership with questions that they might have, with things and trends that they might have identified or seen through this process. And then lastly, the integration phase. So, wow, I did this. I'm actually seeing my students succeed. I'm seeing better fluidity in our processes. I see myself developing as a faculty member, as a scholar in this academic university in which I serve as faculty. Moving on to the next slide, please. So how do we apply the Lewin's model for our newly onboarded doctoral faculty? So many times when our doctoral faculty come to us, particularly, in the pro-docs, a lot of them come to you with very rich, robust industry experience, but perhaps not so much with research experience. So that's where we invest our time and our resources into developing their talent as doctoral faculty. So one of the first things that we have had success doing in the DHA and the PhD in Health Services program is to set a call with the new cohort that will be coming out of the faculty training. So we cohort them so that they can feel that they're part of a team, so that they have peer support through this, so that they don't feel isolated through the processes and within the culture of the university. When we have this call, it's a very open floor. We allow a very robust discussion to occur. We hear questions. We try to settle any apprehensions that might be arising as a result of the new role that they're in. And we also take this time to clearly set the expectations that we have both for them as faculty and for their students. We talk in terms of we, the team, us, in order to build a group dynamic. We are part of a group. We are part of a larger entity here, and we're all working toward the success of our students, and we're all working toward our growth and development as professionals. And so the thing about this particular model is that Lewin's model understands that change is not isolated. Change does not occur in a vacuum. Change is not a specific situation targeted to one specific person. Team occurs across a spectrum, and that change is part of a team dynamic. We empower our faculty to share points of shock, frustration, or denial on the change curve. And that's where using emotional intelligence is key. We want the faculty to be able to come to us and tell us what they feel is not working. Share with us the pain points of the processes. And in that moment, that's where we actually get very useful data and to how the change is being implemented and how we can improve. We also utilize prior experiences, knowledge, and expertise through the change process, particularly if you are working within a business program. Many of your faculty will have very, very rich, robust experiences with change implementation. So leaning into them to understand how they've embraced it, things they have learned, will help you and your team implement the change process for both your students and for the development of your faculty. We like to think in terms of operations and outcomes. If you put things in terms of operational outputs, it's much easier to digest and it's much easier to implement versus a very large abstract way of approaching the change. We also think in terms of outcomes. And again, the outcomes is where we are able to show the success. That's where we're able to show why it needs to be done and the improvement that is going to occur for both the faculty and the students. And then we monitor the group. We hold them accountable. We look at their success rates. We look at their progress through the change. If we see that perhaps they're not implementing the change as they should, that's where we open a discussion and we ask, how are they feeling about it? What are they doing? How can we help them? Then we celebrate the success of the milestones. Again, celebration looks different for each person and each team, but to be able to recognize that you were able to implement a change successfully and take that moment to reflect upon it really creates a culture of invigoration and pride. Moving on to the next slide. So, if you think that the Lewin's model is something that you are interested in, that it could potentially be a model that you would like to implement within your programs or your school, here are some additional resources for you to take an opportunity to review. These are seminal pieces for the Lewin's model of change. these are very, very robust resources, and they are very much geared toward implementing the model in the higher education arena. Moving on. So I want to thank you all today for allowing me the opportunity to talk with you about the Lewin's model of change. If you have any questions regarding the model, working with your programs or your teams through a change process, please do not hesitate to reach out. My email is at the bottom here. I'm always available to answer any questions that you may have. And I thank you very much for the opportunity today.